Long ago, in the prosperous village of Egbalu, life flowed like a peaceful river. The people worked together, shared together, and celebrated every harvest. Among them lived Obi, the village's greatest hunter. His skill was unmatched, and success followed him everywhere. But while others were content, Obi wanted more. Every achievement only increased his hunger for greater wealth. One afternoon, Elder Inanna noticed the dangerous desire growing inside the young hunter. "Greed begins as a whisper, my son, but ends as a storm. Obi, storm or not, wealth belongs to those brave enough to seek it." The elder's warning entered Obi's ears but never reached his heart. Days later, while hunting, Obi ventured farther into the forest than any villager dared to go. Then he found something extraordinary. Beneath the roots rested a sacred calabash that radiated impossible power. Spirit. This calabash grants abundance. Use it wisely. Spirit. Greed will destroy its owner. But Obi focused only on the promise of wealth. That night, Obi tested the spirit's promise. "Obi, sacred calabash, give me gold."
Instantly, gold poured from the calabash like water from a river. Obi could hardly believe his eyes. The sacred vessel was everything the spirit had promised. Instead of sharing the miracle, Obi chose to hide it. Night after night, he filled secret rooms with gold and treasures. With every passing day, his wealth grew larger, and so did his greed. Soon, Obi became richer than anyone in Egbalu. He bought livestock, expensive goods, and built the largest house in the village. The people marveled at his sudden fortune, but no one knew its secret. Among those who noticed was Obi's childhood friend, Kaylee. He had known Obi for many years and sensed that something was wrong. The wealth had changed him. The hunter who once laughed with his neighbors now kept to himself and guarded his possessions with suspicion. As the seasons changed, a terrible drought struck the land. The rain stopped falling, rivers shrank, crops withered beneath the scorching sun. The fertile fields that once fed the village became dry and lifeless. Hunger spread throughout Egbalu. Families struggled to find food. Mothers worried about their children, and the cries of the hungry echoed through the village streets. Yet while everyone suffered, Obi remained surrounded by abundance. The magical calabash could provide enough food and wealth to help everyone. But greed had hardened his heart. When the villagers came to him for help, he turned them away. The people pleaded for mercy. They begged for food, hoping that the richest man in the village would save them from starvation. But Obi refused. He told himself that his wealth belonged only to him. Kaylee watched the suffering around him and became deeply troubled. He could not understand how his friend could ignore the pain of his own people. Again and again, he tried to reason with Obi, reminding him that true wealth meant helping others. But Obi refused to listen. As hunger worsened, anger and disappointment filled Kaylee's heart. He felt betrayed by the friend he once respected. Every day he watched children go hungry while Obi protected his treasure. One night, unable to bear the suffering any longer, Kaylee made a dangerous decision. Under the cover of darkness, he secretly entered Obi's house. Moving quietly through the shadows, he searched for the source of Obi's wealth. At last, he found the sacred calabash. The vessel glowed with the same golden light that had enchanted Obi. For a moment, Kaylee hesitated. He knew that stealing was wrong, yet he convinced himself that he was acting for the good of the village. The moment he lifted the calabash, the air changed. A cold wind swept across the land. Dark clouds gathered overhead, and thunder rumbled through the sky. The ancient warning of the forest spirit had been broken. Greed had corrupted Obi, and betrayal had corrupted Kill. Together, their choices awakened a powerful curse. A violent storm descended upon the village. Lightning flashed across the heavens, and frightened villagers ran for shelter. Then in the center of the village square, the forest spirit appeared. Its glowing eyes looked upon Obi and Kaylee with sadness and disappointment. The spirit reminded them of the sacred law. Great power was meant to serve others, not selfish desires. Obi had chosen greed over compassion, and Kaylee had chosen betrayal over trust. As the villagers watched, the spirit raised its hand. Suddenly, Obi's treasure began to change. Piles of gold turned into dust. Precious riches crumbled and scattered into the wind. Everything he had spent months collecting vanished before his eyes. Obi fell to his knees in shock. The wealth he valued above all else was gone. At that moment, he finally understood the truth. His greed had cost him everything. Not only had he lost his treasure, but he had also lost the respect and trust of those around him. Filled with regret, Obi admitted his mistakes. He confessed that he had allowed greed to control his heart and asked the villagers for forgiveness. Kale also stepped forward and confessed his wrongdoing. Though his intentions had been good, he had still chosen betrayal. He too asked for forgiveness. The villagers listened carefully. They had suffered greatly, yet they understood the value of mercy. Instead of seeking revenge, they chose forgiveness. Together, the people began rebuilding their lives. Obi and Kale worked side by side in the fields. They planted crops, repaired homes, and helped their neighbors. Slowly, the village recovered. In time, the rains returned. The fields became green once more, and the harvest was plentiful. The people celebrated together, stronger and wiser than before. And so the story of Obi and the sacred calabash was passed down from one generation to another. For it teaches a lesson that remains true even today. Greed destroys trust, betrayal destroys friendship, and wealth without kindness brings only sorrow. But when people choose wisdom, forgiveness, and unity, even the deepest wounds can heal. And that is why the elders say a greedy heart loses far more than it gains.